So, what if you could get a bunch of new employee benefits? We're talking dental, vision, maybe even life insurance, without your take home pay changing by a single penny. It sounds kind of like a magic trick, doesn't it? Well, it's actually a really complex financial strategy called the Wimper Program. So, let's get into it and see how this thing actually works.
And that's really the big question we're trying to answer here. Is it actually possible to get more stuff, more benefits, with absolutely zero change to your net pay? I mean, it just feels like there has to be a catch, right? So let's unpack the mechanics and find out for ourselves.
To really get why a program like this even exists, you gotta start with the problem that I think we're all feeling: the benefits squeeze. The cost of just providing and receiving decent benefits, especially healthcare, is just skyrocketing. It's forcing companies and their employees to look for some pretty creative ways around it. And we are not talking about a small problem here. The forecast is for a 9% increase in the cost of employer health plans next year alone. A jump like that puts massive pressure on everybody's budget, from the company's bottom line to what's left in your wallet. It creates this huge need for a totally different approach. And that brings us to the solution on the table: the Wimper Program. It's presented as this perfect win-win tax strategy that tackles the cost crisis head-on. It promises big savings for employers and, at the same time, better benefits for employees. But how on earth does it pull off what seems like financial wizardry? Okay, first things first, let's just get the official name out there. Wimper is a mouthful. It stands for Wellness and Integrated Medical Plan Expense Reimbursement Program. At its heart, the whole idea is to use the tax code in a really clever way to lower a company's payroll costs, and then use those savings to pay for new benefits, all without touching an employee's final paycheck. All right, this is where it gets really interesting. To figure out this more benefits for nothing puzzle, we have to do what they always say: follow the money. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to trace the journey of a dollar from the top of the pay slip, the gross pay, all the way down to the bottom line to see where the magic is actually happening. So the entire system is built on this very specific four-part structure, and it uses different sections of the IRS tax code. Think of it like four gears in a machine. You've got a wellness plan, a Section 125 plan that handles pre-tax stuff, a Section 105 plan that handles post-tax reimbursements, and a qualified health plan that kind of ties it all together and makes sure it's all compliant. It's how these four pieces interact that makes the whole thing go. So let's set our starting point. Here's a sample employee's paycheck before any of this happens. Their biweekly take-home pay is $2,456.84. Okay? Remember that number. Now let's look at the math with the program. Check out that with wellness plan column. You see that huge pre-tax deduction of $1,220? That is the absolute key. It massively lowers the employee's taxable income, which means they owe a lot less in taxes. But then, and this is the clever part, look down at the bottom. That exact same amount is added right back in after taxes as a reimbursement. And here's the big reveal, the final result. After all that financial maneuvering, the pre-tax deduction, the post-tax reimbursement, the employee's final net pay is exactly the same: $2,456.84. The money that pays for all those brand new benefits, it comes entirely from the tax savings. Puzzle solved. So, okay, now that we get the how, the next question is obvious. Who's really winning here? The program is sold as a win-win for everybody, so let's break down the specific advantages that are promised to both the company and to its employees. And really, the benefits are split right down the middle. For the employers, it's all about saving money. We're talking lower payroll taxes, cheaper workers' comp, and just a general reduction in healthcare costs. For the employees, well, the win is pretty clear. You get a whole bunch of new valuable benefits without your paycheck taking a hit. So what kind of benefits can this actually pay for? Well, those tax savings create this sort of benefit reserve, and it can fund a whole suite of options. We're talking really important things like telehealth and mental health services, safety nets like life and disability insurance, and even the stuff everybody wants like dental and vision. It's a pretty comprehensive list. Of course, anytime you're talking about a complex tax strategy, there's gotta be some fine print. A program that sounds this good is bound to make you ask questions about things like, Social Security, your tax refund, and whether the IRS is cool with all this. So let's hit those head on. So a huge concern for any employee is, hey, if I'm lowering my taxable income, is that going to hurt my Social Security benefits down the road?
Well, according to the source material, the answer is no. And as this quote explains, that's because your contributions are based on your gross income before any of this stuff happens. So your reported earnings for Social Security don't go down.
And what about tax refunds? Are you going to get less money back at the end of the year? Again, the program's designed to avoid that. The key word here is proportionality. The idea is that the program lowers both how much tax you owe and how much tax is withheld at the same rate throughout the year. So when it's all said and done, it should be a wash.
Now, this is really, really important to point out. The IRS has absolutely cracked down on programs that look similar to this, but don't follow the rules. A compliant, legitimate Wimper program is specifically structured so that it isn't one of these other things, like a fixed indemnity plan or just a straight-up cash reimbursement scheme that the IRS has already flagged as improper. That distinction is absolutely critical. Which really brings us to our final question. As the cost of traditional benefits just keeps climbing higher and higher, are these kinds of really complex, tax code-driven strategies the future? Is this going to be the new normal for how companies attract and keep good people in a world where healthcare costs just keep going up? It's a pretty compelling question to think about.